Welcome back to the Ashley B. Cash Show. I'm Ashley, and today I have an amazing guest who's a very dedicated lady who is the member from District 12 of the State Board of Education, Mrs. Pam Little. She represents the northeast corner of Texas. She was born in Childress, raised in Bryan College Station, and attended Texas A&M University. She has spent the last 7 years dedicatedly working for the people of her district on the State Board of Education. She has served on the Fairview Town Council, and she had a career in educational publishing, serving as Regional Vice President for Houghton Mifflin. She is a Christian, a wife, a mother to 2, and a grandmother to 4. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me. Talking about education is one of my very favorite things to do.
Well, it is also one of my favorite things to do because, and I know that you and I share a desire to make education better for all students and to really get it focused on skills. Right. And we have just rolled out of the June 2026 meeting of the State Board of Education, which was an arduous and long week for everyone. You all did yeoman's duty. You were there more than 16 hours a day for multiple days, 5 days of the week. And you guys really focused on the social studies TEKS, the literacy list,
right,
and personal financial literacy TEKS.
We did.
And I know a lot of time when we talk about TEKS, it's confusing to people. So TEKS are the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. That's TEKS. And it is basically what we are going to teach a child in every subject at every grade. And it's critically important that we get that right. And then that then is used to create curriculum.
Correct.
But there are TEKS and there are TEKS.
Yeah. As I look at the TEKS, one of the things that I focus on is we have a lot of teaching, but somewhere there's a disconnect with learning. So where's the disconnect, you know?
I think a lot of it's in the curriculum.
Yeah, it may be in the curriculum. I also think it's in the fact that you don't use it. You know, you get taught it, but you don't learn it.
Right.
I think we're doing a lot of teaching, but we're not getting learning.
Well,
and I don't know why, but to me, that's our big problem.
No, and I agree with that. And in some of the new curriculums that have come out where it's very much a script with a timer, and they have to move ahead even if the kids aren't understanding it, that's a huge red flag.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because I voted against that curriculum for that. One of those very reasons is that it's just too scripted and it's too content rich so that the kids don't have time to practice to read. That's how you learn to read.
Yes.
It's practicing.
Yes. I know why Blue Bonnet was created was because we don't have enough teachers. The teachers aren't being taught as well as they were in the past. They're not having as much work experience coming into schools. There aren't opportunities for the teachers to enter under another teacher to actually learn the hands-on part of it. And so we've got teachers, and I'm not talking about the experienced teachers, but I'm talking about new teachers coming in. They don't have the skills that they need to be able to do the class prep, to run the whole classroom, to do every bit of it. They don't have the same methodology that teachers in the past had to be able to teach. And so Blue Bonnet, part of it was done that way so that these teachers can just from day one have what they need for each classroom every day. But then that hurts the teachers who are really well versed, who have the experience.
And it hurts the students to be pushed on before they've mastered something.
And I don't necessarily mind the curriculum. It's the pushing of it even when the kids don't understand it.
It's the pedagogy of it.
It is. And it's also the philosophy behind some of it. Like I don't think it's always taking the true science of education into account.
It's not.
Right? Like, and there's a scientist here at this event that was like, we have to go back to the science of education. That's a big part of the reason that these kids aren't understanding.
One of the problems that happened is long about the same time things started going down, Texas did away with the reading academies. It's where teachers were getting that instruction. New teachers had to take it. And we've come back with the reading academies, but now what teachers are telling me is that the Blue Bonnet pedagogy doesn't follow what they were taught in the reading academies. And I'm not enough of a reading expert to understand that, so I have to depend on the ones that do. But to me, that's a huge mistake. We're teaching them one way, but yet we give them a curriculum that's designed differently.
Well, and I was told by a teacher yesterday that her big problem is that, like, she teaches math, and the math that's in Bluebonnet, it says do not give them direct instruction. Basically, the kids need to infer it. And I'm like, that doesn't work on any level. It's the philosophy of it. And I'm like, okay, so while the curriculum might be okay, we need to fix the philosophy, and we need to fix the pedagogy. And we need to take the time constraints off of it, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think there are ways that we can fix it by just fix it instead of throwing the whole baby out with the bathwater, so that we can get and have all of the things we need. We have what we need for newer teachers that don't have the experience. We have the correct pedagogy. We need to get the correct philosophy, right? And then have the curriculum that has good things in it. And I think there's a way to fix it. Now, whether or not we can get people to agree to do that is a different story.
People, huh? Yeah, I agree.
And I didn't think, because I was very much for Bluebonnet in the beginning, because I was so against Amplify. See? And the Amplify, and it was my understanding that Amplify had come out and all these schools had bought this really expensive computer system. And then we said, hey, Amplify is full of CRT, it's full of DEI, it's full of LGBTQ++. That has been outlawed by the governor. So we went to the schools, we're like, you can't use that anymore. And they were like, we've spent all this money, we have this whole computer system. And so Bluebonnet was a rewrite to give something to go in that computer system that didn't have the CRT, the DEI, and the LGBTQ++. And so from that standpoint, I was for it. And I know that it's been an avenue for us to bring back biblical references and our true founding documents and different things like that. But I still think that there are problems with it.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see, for whatever that's worth, us get back to the science of education, to get back to you and I both talked about, it's been since the 80s that we've seen this decline.
Right.
What were we doing before the 80s that worked? Right. We were using the science of reading. We were doing explicit math training and explicit phonics and explicit vocabulary, and I think that that's what we have to get back to, and not timing.
All right, I totally agree, and I do think, as we said, the No Child Left Behind made a huge difference.
Huge.
It didn't accomplish what it was supposed to do, and we need to look at that and completely. That may be something we need to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I wholeheartedy agree.
Yeah.
I think that the No Child Left Behind law that was established by the federal government about the same time that the Department of Education came into being, where they said we are leaving certain students behind, and we absolutely can't do that. Right? We've got to raise all students. And the premise behind it, No Child Left Behind, is a good premise. We shouldn't leave any of them behind. But we cannot throw children of all levels into one classroom and expect it to benefit any of them.
No.
And we've seen that it's not.
It's not.
And I would argue that it's actually leaving those kids that are behind further behind.
I agree.
And it's also slowing down all the kids who could be moving faster. And so I think that's something I'm hoping that the federal government, and when Secretary Mimian, she was here at this event, she spoke here last night, I'm hoping that that's one of the things that she will eliminate as she closes down the Department of Education and moves the necessary parts of the Department of Education to other departments. She's moving some things to Department of Labor, some things to Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, and I hope that we can eliminate that so that we can give explicit instruction to those kids that are behind. I think they actually need more resources.
They do.
And I think that they need to be elevated, more resources with kids that are at their same level so that they can rise faster. And I think that that's something that's really critical. And it existed before the 80s, before our decline started. And so I think it's something we've got to get back to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah. And one of the things that we had also talked about was getting kids out of that generational poverty, which to me is just so important. And in my 7 years on the State Board of Education, one of the things that we've worked on are what we call our CTE programs, career and technology programs.
Yes.
And we have over 400 career and technology courses in various fields of study so that students can take these courses in high school and leave high school with a certificate so that they can go out and earn a good living for their families. And as you and I have talked, not every student is college material, and they shouldn't be, quite frankly. We need somebody to fix our air conditioner and somebody to, when our pipes break, that can come do that.
And those are really good jobs.
They are very good jobs.
One of the things that we have to change is the way that we talk about it. Right? We can't say every child needs to go to college, and we shouldn't ask kids, where are you going to college? That should not be our question. Our question should be, what are you going to do with the next part of your life? What are you passionate about? What kind of job will make you happy? And we should validate those. And I think that some of these CTE, they're desperately needed in our communities. They are really, really amazing earning potential, more so than a lot of college degrees.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And another thing that's important to me, and I'm not sure that I had even talked to you about this, is entrepreneurship.
Oh, me too.
And one of the reasons it is so important to me is because my husband and I started a fence company out of our garage almost 50 years ago now. And today it is the largest fence company probably in Texas and definitely in the Metroplex.
I love that.
So that's just near and dear to my heart, and I feel like that a lot of people end up being a small business owner, whether they anticipate that or not.
Right. And we're not doing anything to teach people to be small business owners.
And another thing that I did is I taught small business ownership and management at North Harris County Community College for years in the vocational division. So if they were to get an Associate of Arts degree as a welder, but they're going to be a business owner, and while they understand their craft, they don't understand how to fill out IRS forms. They don't understand how to talk to the banker. They don't understand the concepts of a lease.
Or how to put together their business plan in such a way to present it to someone else.
Absolutely. So I feel like that, and one of the courses of study that we have in here is entrepreneurship. And we have 3 different levels of it. And I just think that is so important for all of our students to understand that. And, you know, a lot of the entrepreneurship courses are parts of the other courses in study. And the other thing that I like about these courses of study is that the math and the science is taught within the context of these. Like we've got one right here on agriculture, food, and natural resources. And, you know, we always say you don't need a doctor every day, but you need a farmer 3 times a day.
You do.
So it's very important, but yet let's teach them the math about acreage, how to determine acreage, how to determine what percentages of chemicals you need in your fertilizer. You know, how much feed do you give a cow, and how much weight does that equate when you sell that cow? And those are things that are going to mean a lot more to a student than if we give them a problem about algebra and geometry about 2 trains and which one gets there first.
Yes.
You know, I think
we should be doing that in 3rd grade, but yes, no, I agree with you.
But I do think that we are missing the boat when we just teach things not in context.
No, 100%.
And over the 7 years that I have been on the board, that's something that we have worked a great deal on. And I'll be happy to provide this all for you electronically so that you can share it with your viewers so that they can go in and look at this.
And we will link the resources to all of those in my website, which is ashleybcash.com, so they can get straight to it.
Yeah.
And I love this, you know, CTE. My thing is wanting to transform the K through 12 education system back to skills-based learning.
Right.
And to me, CTE, career technical entrepreneurship, is 100% something that is absolutely needed, and it needs to be a higher priority, I believe.
Yeah.
And what I love is these different courses that she was talking about. instead of a child having to take algebra or geometry, there are actually math courses built into these that qualify as one of their maths that is required for graduation, but it will be more applicable to a student's life or their desired careers. And I love that. There's also sciences that qualify here. And so don't think that it just has to be chemistry, biology, and physics. If you choose to take your child, if you and the child decide that there's a career that's better suited for them that's not college bound, I would highly recommend that you pick one of these and pick the maths that apply and pick the sciences that apply instead of those others that will have no bearing on their future life. And I think that's just so much more important. And I love that you've been involved with that and been fighting for that, because and I appreciate the state legislature this year that they, brought more finances to the CTE programs. But one of the things that we've got to work on is y'all have done all this amazing work with these CTE programs, and you've given them a ton of options, right?
Yeah,
entrepreneurship, agriculture,
pages of it.
And I mean, there's accounting, there's real estate, there's teaching, there's electrical, there's HVAC, there's welding, there's all kinds of CTE options. Now the question is, what are the schools doing with that? And I would urge the parents out there to go to your school and make sure that they are picking CTE courses that your child can actually get a good job with. Because I see a lot of floral CTE. And while there are a few jobs for florists, and if you wanted to own a floral business, great, but how many do we need? Whereas, we need to be encouraging these schools to have CTE programs that are going to be either jobs that are in need or small businesses that are in need in our particular communities. And I think that is something that local school boards and the administration in schools needs to work on more, is having really good relationships with their local community, getting advice from their local community on what your local community is needing as far as workforce, your local community is needing as far as businesses, and taking your decision making about which CTE courses to have from your local communities.
Right.
Because you can have all these courses, but if they're not ones that are interesting to the kids, but also don't produce a job that can actually make money, then it's not doing the benefit that it should be.
One of these certificates that is especially appropriate for Texas is we have a whole certificate based on the energy cluster. Oil and gas technology, refining and chemical resources, all of these things that we have right here in our state.
Yeah.
And I think that was particularly important, and we did those, I think, just about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that's a great job opportunity for the Texas students.
And so, I mean, especially if you live in an area like West Texas or up around Dallas or down around Houston, where there's a lot of oil and gas production, those are really great jobs, and kids can make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. And so schools in those areas should be looking at those CTE programs. But what would be even better is if the businesses involved in that industry would go to their schools and help them with those programs, make sure that they're teaching the skills that those kids need, make sure, because skills change, especially in...
They do.
Right?
And that's one of the things that we do, is we review these every 2 years.
Good.
And one of the things that became obvious to me is I had a teacher talk to me about an architect certificate, and she said part of the problem we have is that our students, to get the certificate, have to master a piece of outdated software, but to get the job they have to know the new software. So that's when we went back and we said, okay, we're going to review these every 2 years, and I think that's an important thing to do as fast as things change.
100%, I agree with you, and I'm so glad that you guys are doing that and that you've gone to the effort to make sure that the kids are getting the skills that they need.
And when we develop these standards, we always involve industry people. Like just recently, we developed some for the medical field, but it was also fire training. And we actually went to Collin College and got them involved with it because they have a fire training school. So that's how we develop these courses, is we always reach out to industry or that somebody that's actually doing current work to advise us on these.
Well, and let's talk about that for a little bit, because I think that's something that has been a learning curve for me, is the TEKS. And that is the Texas Essential essential knowledge and skills,
Right.
so TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And so to understand, you have to understand when a piece of legislation happens or old legislation has happened, then it goes to the TEA, which creates regulation around the legislation or the piece of policy. And then it's actually the SBOE's job to approve the TEKS. But
Right.
you guys don't actually have staff. So you
That's
guys,
a problem.
Yes. So you guys do a lot of it yourselves.
Right, we do.
You bring in a lot of outside resources, but then you also rely on the TEA for some of
Right.
it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so the TEKS, every TEK, my understanding is that you all involve hundreds of people in the industry, teachers, all different levels of people involved in that particular
Right.
subject, and they spend thousands of hours coming up with the TEKS, and then it is brought to the SBOE for a vote.
Right.
Now, at the SBOE, members can bring additional TEKS.
They can, and they can amend the TEKS.
Yes.
And as you can imagine, with social studies, we saw a lot of that.
Yes.
But I always try to rely on the experts. Even though I have 2 degrees in history, I've never taught it in a public school
Right.
setting.
No.
So it was real important to me that I had advisors who had taught in public school to advise me on that, which I did. I was fortunate. Had some great advisors. But that is the process. And you know, like I said, it got very involved for social studies, and next up for us will be math. And I think that may be one of the things you were referring to when you were talking about that parents don't know the process anymore because the process changed. And, you know, I've had parents tell me, well, to work a math problem like 262 minus 178, you have to draw a box, and you have to put the hundreds in there, and you have to put the tens in there, and then you have to put the ones in there, and then draw another box under it and do that same thing, and then you do some kind of calculation on the end of these boxes, and then you do a calculation this way, and that's how you get the right answer. To me, it was much simpler the way we did it. We borrowed and carried and got the right answer.
And then if the child's not understanding it in school, if we do it the way that we've always done it, and by the way, the test scores were better when we were doing it the old way, but the parents could still help the kids in the way that it's being done now. I don't understand all of those boxes or what, I mean, my kids literally would bring me math and I'd be like, what is that? It's like a grid. That doesn't make any sense. And
I know.
It takes 10 times longer.
It does.
It's more complicated.
I know.
Like, I don't understand how we could have ever even gotten there. So I'm hoping that's something that
well,
you guys
I've been on a math ad hoc committee to study the math TEKS, and one of the things that we discovered is that our TEKS were too focused on processing it. Like you can work a problem 7 different ways, and the important part of it was the number of ways that you could work the problem, not getting the right answer. And then we discovered that one of the process skills that we were missing was precision, which is the right answer. So for some reason, we've had these math standards for the last 10 years now that have not been focused on getting the right answer, which to me is just amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's my goal as we move into math, is to be sure that we focus on the right answer, and that while yes, there are many different ways to get an answer, and that's a good thing to do because that's critical thinking, but in the end, the important thing is the right answer.
And this is the other thing. It's my understanding that because we had all these processes, options, right, 7 different ways to get there. But some schools were like, the teacher's like, I'm teaching it this way, and this is the way you have to do it, and if you don't do it, and if you don't draw it out and show it to me, it doesn't matter if you get the right answer, it's still wrong. And I think that we've got to put the focus back on the right answer, and it doesn't matter which process they use, as long as they're getting the right answer, because each process is going to work for a different child.
Right. And that is important to provide those options for each student. But at the end of the day, you need to get that right answer. And that's where I think these standards that we are working with now tended to drop the ball. And it was like, okay, if you can work this problem 7 different ways, like you said, I don't care if the answer's right, you were showing me the 7 different ways you can work it. Well, that's great, but getting the right answer is, to me, the most important thing.
Well, and I think finding the one process that child understands in getting the right answer
Right.
is really the true harmony, right? And the thing that will make that child better.
Right.
Because we all learn differently.
Right.
And so one process is going to appeal to one child more than another process, and vice versa.
Right.
Right. And so I don't think it's so much which process they use, but that right answer.
Right.
And I had a child who does math in his head. He's like got 150 IQ.
Yeah.
And he was at a school where the teacher was taking off 60% if
Oh,
he
wow.
didn't write the process down correctly. And he's like, I don't do it that way in my head. And even if you make me write it down, it's not going to be his process.
Yeah.
And so 60% was taken off. Now, he was in 8th grade, but it was a freshman level class. It was going to count for his college.
Oh, yeah.
And the teacher literally said to me, and it's really a shame because he's gotten every problem right all year.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like on the homework and not on the tests? And he's like, no, on everything. He's gotten every problem right, but he's just not showing me the work that I want to see. And I was like, and you're taking off, so you're failing him.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
It was extremely extreme. And I get it if you want to take off 10% or 20% because they're not doing specifically what you asked, because we do need to teach them to have some,
Right.
follow some instructions. That still would have been a B,
Yeah.
right? And that would have been okay.
Yeah.
But I was like, 60, you're failing him and he's gotten every problem right all year,
Yeah.
And this is my kid who's dyslexic. So if
Yeah.
you'd gotten a 40 or 50 in English, I would have been like, but math, he's always been straight A's.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But it's just funny. But those processes, I'm so glad that you're fixing that in the TEKS.
Yeah,
It's great.
No, that's my number one goal is to
Yeah.
fix that in the TEKS, because I just think that we just, and unfortunately in education we do that. The pendulum will swing this way, and it goes one too far this way, and then it'll swing back this way. And I wish we could sort of just keep it right in the middle and not feel like that we always had to do something extreme. Because like you said, our kids back in the 80s, early 90s, they were performing well. And and I do understand, that there are a lot of different things now. And one thing that also concerns me is the amount of screen time that we are requiring
We're
for
going to
our
have
students.
a long conversation about this one because I'm with you.
Well, I know there are a lot of education activists and moms who have been involved with this for the last 6 years, trying to get that screen time cut down.
Yeah.
But the first thing we've got to do on that screen time is to get the STAR test off of a computer.
Yes.
Because, if you're a school district, you're going to want that student to have experience on a screen if that's how they're going to take the STAR test, and that's how districts get evaluated. So that, to me, and I keep telling these folks that are working towards this, the first step is we've got to get the STAR test off of the computer. And then we can move forward. But until we do, if I'm a superintendent, I'm going to still want the kids on the screens.
Yeah. It's my understanding that we kind of are going to be getting rid of the STAR test, but we're replacing it with 3 other tests. And the same is true for that, right? Those also can't be on screens.
Right. That's no matter what the test is, it shouldn't be on screens.
Right. I think it's fascinating that in the United States we have what I'm going to call the tech bros, right? And I got that from a friend of mine, Robbie Kirkpatrick. But the guys in technology are pushing us to go toward more screen learning, AI screen learning.
Right.
And yet you see countries like Finland and Sweden, which did that and went all in on computer learning. And now they've come out and said, this has been horrific for our students. And they are dropping all screen learning except for computer class.
Right.
And I still think that you do have to teach computer class.
I do too.
But the science of education teaches us that younger kids shouldn't be on the screens at all.
Right.
And that it's really important that they learn to write, do handwriting, and move left to right and right to left across their body, just for their brain to fully develop.
And especially for the dyslexic students.
100%.
They really need that movement, that continual movement that helps them learn to read.
And the cursive.
And the cursive. And we did put cursive back in the curriculum in 2019.
I'm so glad.
And why anybody would have ever taken it out, I have no idea.
Because they thought we were all going to typing.
Yeah, well.
But if you want to confuse a a person who's about 18, 20 years old writing cursive that can't understand
Yeah,
it.
I know.
It's like you've put something in a safe. It's great. But I think that's so critically important. I personally, my personal opinion for whatever that's worth, would love to see no computers in the classroom before 6th grade.
I think that, I think we'll be lucky if we can get it out K through 3, but I think we need to shoot for K through 6, and hopefully we might could end up at K through 3.
Well, as you and I both know from the last SBOE meeting in June, you guys have got to set the bar really high and hope to get about halfway there, because I was amazed at the volume of people that came out and were just trying to destroy the TEKS that had been created, and for a variety of reasons.
Right.
One, because they didn't want our biblical values as reference materials. They didn't like the literary list. They wanted teachers to have complete and total freedom over what they picked to read. There were people standing up saying that they didn't want their child to learn about Moses because he was a mythical figure. Like, I was sitting there, I mean, my jaw was just on the ground. Yeah. And it's amazing to see what you all go through and the hits that you take and the way that you have to negotiate to get the things that you do want in there. It was fascinating to me. You'd had testimony on Monday. Then you guys started taking amendments on Tuesday. You did that nearly all the day Tuesday, all the day Wednesday, into a Thursday morning to amend the social studies and the literary list.
Yeah, I mean, both Tuesday night we finished at 1:30, and Wednesday night we finished at that morning at 1:30.
And you'd started at 8 in the morning.
Started at 8 in the morning.
Yes, it's long days.
Very long days.
And it's very, I hate from a business standpoint to say emotional, but it is.
It's very emotional. Well, you're dealing with emotional topics.
Yes.
And you have to understand that. And I understand that a lot of people have different opinions, but I do think it's important as a state board member that I show respect for people, even if I totally disagree with them, which there were many of them I did totally disagree with. But I do think we need to be respectful of another person's opinions.
Well, we absolutely do, and it's our responsibility as adults to show kids how to act, right? And I think that, like, I'm an advocate for having speech starting in kindergarten, even if it's just them standing up and telling their class about what they just read, right? But doing it all the way through, so hopefully we don't end up with adults whose number one fear is public speaking, but also because moving that up into debate, so people know how to do their own research about topics, they know how to look at it from both sides, and they know how to be a listener and listen for understanding, not just to rebut.
Right.
And that's something that we as adults need to show kids how to do and how to act out. And so I do appreciate that when I was testifying, and we brought a busload of ladies from Lubbock up to testify, and everybody did sit and listen, and then you guys got to ask us questions if you wanted to, and I appreciated the process. But it's an arduous process for you all. Like, we got to leave after we testified if we wanted to, and you guys were there 8 a.m. till 1:30, 8 a.m. till 1:30, and 8 a.m. again.
We were.
And I don't think you guys finished a night before 9 or 10 p.m.
No, and that was without any like hour breaks for dinner or anything like that.
Y'all were
lunch.
Eating on the dais,
we were
or stepping into the hall to go to the bathroom and shoveling something in.
That's exactly right. It was. I think we had over 500 testifiers, and each one would get 2 minutes, and then if a member asked a question, so figure average 3 minutes per testifier. You do the math on that one.
Yeah, it was a lot of time, and it was. If the viewers have never been to a State Board of Education meeting, I highly suggest you go so that you understand the process. The last few years has been a huge education for me in how we get things into schools or get things out of schools. And the process is long, and it takes years.
It does.
The things that we're working on today, just planning to bring policy to K through 12 education, probably will not actually hit a schoolroom. Most of it will not hit a schoolroom for at least 3 years, if not 5 years.
Yeah. Well, the social studies TEKS and the literary list are scheduled to be in the classrooms in 2030. So that's 4 years.
4 years, yeah. And like there are other things though that are easier to enforce. For example, Representative Caroline Fairley this last session, so that was in 2025, brought a bill that removed phones from classrooms.
Right.
And that was able to go into effect this past school year because it was an easy thing to do. It didn't require a lot of curriculum preparation and different things. meetings, and that has been a fabulous thing for school. Every teacher that I've talked to, and actually all the parents and most of the students are
I think
actually
everybody
saying,
likes that.
Yeah. I know students and some parents were very against it in the beginning, but it has turned out to be great. You actually see kids now having relationships with other kids, having conversations.
Right, they actually have to talk to each other because they don't have a phone to look at.
I know. And the communication skills are going to be better as a result. Their relational skills will be better. I just think
that's going back to the screen situation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, would you go ahead and tell everyone how they can get a hold of you if there are questions that they have about the State Board of Education, if there are suggestions they would like to make to you, how can they do that?
Well, first of all, let me say that I have been honored to represent the people of District 12 and have had the privilege of doing so for 7 years, and that's very important to me. If you want to get in touch with me, my email address is pam.little@sboe.texas.gov, and that comes directly to my inbox. Just keep in mind, as Ashley said, we do not have any staff, so it's just me answering your emails.
So it may not get back to you in 30 minutes.
Yeah, right. But when you do get an email back, it's from me. It's not from staff, and it may be short and sweet. It may say, I agree with you, but this is the problem. I mean, I guarantee you it'll be a short and sweet one.
Yeah.
But I do try to answer as many emails as possible. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your service to our state. I really appreciate what you're doing. I know that it's a lot of hard work, and it's an unpaid position.
It is an unpaid position, and sometimes I think we have to even fight to get our expenses reimbursed. It has to go through several different processes, and it's like, well, you know, I'm obviously you can see where I am and what I'm doing. I was there for 17 hours. So.
Well, and you don't live in Austin, which is where your SBOE meetings are, so you have to have a hotel. You have to figure out how to get to Austin.
Yeah.
And that's just for the meetings. That's not all the preparation work in advance of the meetings, or meeting with the specialists, and who knows how much travel you have to do, or they have to do to get to you to do that. So there are expenses, but again, it's still not paid. You're doing this because you believe in our education system and our students.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I love doing it, and I think it's important that we get all of our students in Texas educated. We have 5.5 million students in this state, and they all deserve a good education, and I feel like that's my job.
Well, thank you. And thank you for joining us here today. Really appreciate you tuning in. Next time we will be discussing more ways that you can transform the K-12 education system. See you then.